Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Shankly Gates Podcast, where we'll be looking at Liverpool's 3-1 win over Crystal Palace. And I'm joined this evening by Kieran. How are you doing, Kieran?
Yeah, good time, mate, yourself?
Yeah, all well, pal. And Dan, how are you this evening?
Yeah, happy, mate. Can't complain. Yourself? All good?
Yeah, all good. Right, we'll start with you then, Dan. Obviously, City drawing yesterday. We know how big the gap is at the top. People have ruled out Chelsea and us from the title race.
Yeah.
You can still probably say there's a long way to go, but obviously with the result today and how desperately we needed it, how impressed were you with how we started?
Yeah, really impressed with how we started the game. We started as if that result last night, the City result, meant something. I think going into it, we all thought, okay, they've dropped points here. This is our opportunity to, grab it and make a title race again, really. And obviously we ended up doing that. So that's how we looked from the outset. And for about half an hour, obviously we're going to talk about the game. I'm not sure we look like that for the next 60 minutes, but it was good to see that it looked as though the players and the manager, to a certain extent, had taken on board what had happened and said, listen, they should go there and try and win the game anyway. Of course they should. But it looked even extra impetus for us, which was nice.
Well, Kieran, Dan mentioned there about our good start. How impressed were you with our first goal?
Not just the first goal, the first half an hour were fantastic, yeah. Well, the first goal itself, Liverpool scoring from corners is sort of a misnomer, but every time Sky bring the stat up of number of goals from corners, we always seem to be at the top, and it confuses me because every corner it's the first man.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it's clearly a tactic that we go for because, I can remember a few goals it's worked. Remember Mane at Villa, in the 2-1 near post is something we go for. But if there's one man you don't leave unmarked and give a free, clear run at goal, it's Virgil van Dijk. I mean, I think it's Anderson who gets blocked by his own man, but the delivery's there, just just outside the 6-yard box and bang. I hardly saw it go in, just flashed past everyone. But what a fantastic start to the game. I mean, when we get those set pieces in those areas, it just shows one good ball like that, especially with someone like Van Dijk, and we can score many goals from that. So, a fantastic start, which then led us into a wonderful first half an hour.
Well, Kieran's mentioned there, Dan, sort of we talk about Liverpool's set-piece delivery and often our delivery as well, and how it sometimes seems like it's not up to scratch. And obviously with the quality that we have with Trent and Robbo. So then to see Robbo get it bang on the money, one for the first goal and then again for the second one, how much confidence does that fill you with for the rest of the game and us going ahead and winning?
Yeah, massively, obviously. I think it's a strange one because Kieran obviously mentions the stats there with Liverpool being top of scoring from corners. I like Kieran. I don't see that. I obviously watch us every single minute of every game. I just don't see how that could be the case because it seems like every time we have a corner or a free kick in a dangerous area, we make a mess of it, quite frankly. And with the quality delivery we get from Robertson and Trent in open play, and with listen, I said the other week, I said Van Dijk wins every single header in the defensive sense. He wins every header. The man is a machine in the air. How he doesn't score 5 to 10 goals, league goals a season, I don't know. And obviously he scores today, like a week after I say it. So that's what he should be doing. What he's done today is what he should be doing more regularly, in my opinion. But too often the delivery is really poor. So it's a weird one. But yeah, listen, great start to the game. Bullet header. If the net doesn't stop it, that ball's probably still travelling, if we're going to be honest with you. That has absolutely flew off his head. Yeah, really good. Obviously, like I said, we're going to touch on the game a bit more broadly in a minute, but the start was electric. I thought Curtis Jones was brilliant. I thought attacking centre was superb. The second goal comes from a great ball from Robertson. Made up for Oxlade-Chamberlain getting his goal. I thought that was really deserved. I think he's actually enjoying a little bit of a spell at the minute as a Liverpool player, which is nice. But what happened after that? I mean, you tell me. It just the wheels. 2-0 lead suddenly's become like the worst possible thing for us for some reason.
Well, I'll stick with you then, Dan. You mentioned it, us 2-0 leads and sort of falling off. Where do you think it went wrong? Because it seemed to be a similar sort of circumstance as the Chelsea game.
It did, yeah. In fairness, I think Palace improved a lot. I think we probably have to say that because Palace for sort of 25, 30 minutes of that game couldn't string 2 passes together. They were giving away free kicks. So Conor Gallagher just looked like a man frustrated because it looked like Liverpool had brought their own balls for half an hour. And I think that helped us, obviously. We were really fast-paced, didn't really give them a sniff, didn't really give them an opportunity to settle. And I think when we got the 2-goal lead, we might have sat back off that a little bit, and we found it difficult to get going again. And as soon as we sat off that pace, Palace then grew into the game and then grew in confidence. And in fairness to Palace, that last hour was more like the game I expected throughout. So maybe it was a little bit of maybe it tricked us a little bit going 2-0 in front so comfortably because Palace hadn't really got going. And like I say, the whole 90 minutes should have been a battle, but it wasn't. We had a free rein for half an hour, managed to get comfortable, and then it became a game. But take nothing away from the fact that we were really poor for an hour. The fact that we allowed ourselves to drop off looked like we couldn't go back up a gear, which is not a very good sign.
What about you then, Kieran? Obviously, Dan's mentioned there we weren't great, and it seemed like the first half was almost Jekyll and Hyde in terms of performance. Do you think that that's how, were you expecting Palace to play like that? Obviously, we saw early on. Do you think that was the old Palace, or do you think that the new Palace was the one that we saw throughout the rest of the game, really, after that?
A little bit. I was listening to Carragher during the game who said they weren't that great against Brighton, so maybe they took a bit of that into that game. I was surprised, like Dan said, you expect to go there, and you expect to be in, as he said, a proper battle for 90 minutes. I mean, the way it was starting, we were going for basically the 7-0 we got last year because it did seem to be that easy at times. We were superb. I mean, you just go back and look at that second goal for me. That is absolutely world class.
Yeah.
Pass all over. And most of the players get a touch. Delivery from Robertson and Chamberlain, the far post. That's probably arguably goal of the month if you actually you go back and look at it. But again, it's time and time again. Really, we get this 2-goal lead, and not just this. We go back Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea. And we just don't seem to, get on top. It's like we're almost getting too far ahead in the game too early. We, as Dan says, we drop off. But I think the main point for me is ball retention. And for me, I've seen it too often enough now. We're dropping that level, but we can't keep the ball. More times than not, most games, it seems to be Joel Matip that gives the ball away to create the major chances that opposition teams have. It's not him all the time. I'm not singling him out, but again, we just didn't seem to recover from it. It could have easily been 2-2 at half time. Never mind towards the end of the game. But it's those sort of games where you've got to win at all costs. We sit here at the end of the day. We've been to that's another tough away game out the way. We've got the 3 points we need, but again, the signs are there, which they've been there for a while. On another day, we don't win that game. We're just, I think we are quite fortunate to be getting out of there with 3 points.
I think whilst we're on the subject of, going into half-time 2-0, it could have been much worse, and we were quite fortunate to come away with 3 points. I do want to talk about a man who I think is very underrated sometimes. It doesn't get the acclaim and is the most beautiful-looking man I think I've seen in this planet, and that is Alisson Becker. Dan, sorry, I meant you.
Yeah.
Alisson Becker, how important is that man to our football team, and how many times, I know Klopp said at the end of the game that he did save his job, and you know what, you can tell because he is absolutely outstanding. Kieran, what can you say about Alisson?
Mate, world class. I can't, rate him highly enough. The amount of times he's dug us out of trouble, not just as a goalkeeper, going forward as well. But he's a Liverpool legend just for that goal alone. Never mind the saves the save he's done for us. But again, with that, I mean, to be honest, we're blessed at the minute with two, really, really good goalkeepers. At the back, if Kelleher was in the same position, I'd have probably backed him at the same time to do the same job. But Alisson's done it for us for a number of years, and long may it continue. You don't want to see him, going anywhere at all. Obviously, he'll have to move on one day, but. But the fact he is making all these saves, it obviously does come down to the defence. which we may go and speak on a bit more. The fact he's got to make all these saves, we're very thankful that he does, but we'd like him not to get to that stage. But mate, he's unbelievable. He's already a Liverpool legend, and I still think lots more years and lots more saves to come from him.
Well, Dan, I know that Liverpool have had their issues in the past with unreliability with goalkeepers. So seeing Alisson and how he's performed for us in the past few years, does that add greater appreciation when he puts out performances like this?
Yeah, and it certainly should do. There's very few goalkeepers, certainly from my time watching Liverpool, that you can sort of, I suppose, hail and remember their moments from. And Alisson's one of them already. If we all think back to the Napoli save, which gets us through the group stage, which ultimately takes us to the Champions League trophy at the end of the season. So he's already come up for some massive moments for this football club. And this season alone, Kieran touches on it there. Like a stat came out this week about David De Gea. You've probably both seen it. In terms of he's made the most saves in the Premier League, and a lot of Liverpool fans, including myself, were saying that's not necessarily a good thing. Listen, the fella's in good form. There's no doubt about it. He saves a lot of stuff, but your goalkeeper shouldn't be making. Normally, that stat is reserved for like the West Brom goalkeeper when they're bottom of the league. You know what I mean? So Kieran's right in what he says about Alisson is maybe he's a little bit too busy and we're having to rely on him a little bit too much. Because I think the first half against Man City earlier this season, he keeps us in that game as well. And he obviously saved that against Bukayo Saka as well in the first leg. That could have easily been 1-0 Arsenal, and who knows what happens. But listen, the fella's world class. He has his moments like all goalkeepers do, whereby you think, especially with his feet, it seems to be, but make absolutely no mistake about it. When it comes to shot stopping, that decision making, the one-on-one instincts he has, he is the best of the world at that, in my opinion. And we're very lucky to have him. Kieran's right about Kelleher, another very good goalkeeper. But for me, when it comes to that big moment, there's nobody better than Alisson.
Unfortunately, he didn't get his clean sheet today. But for you guys, I'll start with you, Dan. Where do you think it went wrong then in the second half? Obviously went in at half time, 2-0 up, and you thought, Klopp's going to have a word with them and we'll come out much stronger. And as Kieran mentioned there, we've had issues in terms of Alisson making way too many saves recently, you'd probably say. So where do you think it went wrong? Was it the midfield or was it the defence?
I'd probably say defensively more than anything. I was relatively impressed with the midfield today for the large part. Even without Thiago, I still have Thiago in that midfield in a heartbeat, even though I was really impressed with Curtis Jones as well, to be fair. But for me, it's still defensive issues. I think Joel Matip's had a really dodgy week, if I'm honest. He had a really poor first half against Arsenal and obviously got dragged. Klopp said something wasn't right with him. I don't quite know what he meant by that, but something certainly wasn't right in terms of the fact he forgot how to play football for 45 minutes. And I don't think he was perfect today, and I absolutely adore the fella. I actually think he's been a better central defender this season than Virgil van Dijk, up until the last 72 hours, to be honest. It was a weird one. Like I say, I think we took our foot off the gas, and we've done that a lot this season, if we're going to be honest. A little bit of complacency, potentially. I don't like that word when it comes to football, but I think maybe a little bit of complacency. And I think the main issue, I don't really mind us going through the gears in games, even dropping down gears in games. I haven't really got an issue with that because it's something we've done for a long time now, and we've done it relatively well. What I do have an issue with is not being able to go again. And at the minute, it seems like every time we get ahead in a game, we drop down the gears, but then when it becomes a match again, we can't go up a level. And that's the issue, because when Palace got better, we got worse. That never changed. You know what I mean? It stayed like that for the second half. And that is a problem, because Jurgen Klopp isn't known for his subs changing games, really. It's very rare he'll make these massive impact substitutions, unless Divock Origi's knocking around. But yeah, that's what I'd say more than anything, just to sort of generally say why they were better than us in the second half. I think we got 2-0 ahead, obviously, and we seem to have a bigger issue this season in terms of once we've got complacent, we can't go again, which is a big problem. It really is.
What about you, Kieran? What are your thoughts on it?
Similar to Dan, really. It's more defending. I mean, you can't fault us going forward this season. I mean, I'm speaking to you off air beforehand. You look at it, the race for the Golden Boot, we occupy first and second, and then top assists this season we have the first, second, and third with Salah, Robertson, and Trent. So going forward, we're actually probably the best we've been under Klopp this year for numbers. But yeah, defensively again, I go back to I don't want to pick on Matip all that, but it just seems like a few times, it's just simple giving the ball away in our own third, and we want to try and get there. We want to get ahead of City and win the league. For me, they're the best team at keeping the ball in the league, and I think that that's the difference. At the minute, we give away too many sloppy passes, and teams just obviously take it upon them. Not so much a high press, just loose balls, from, goal kicks, sort of that sort of thing. And I find myself scratching my head because they are so avoidable. If we just try and find feet and, unnecessarily just get an OT, we're not going to do it. I'm old fashioned, we just kick it up the line. But yeah, so I would probably say this defence. I mean, a little disappointing. I thought that it was a well-worked goal from there. The actual goal when it came, it was a lovely bit of football. Ball in behind. That's how you can get in arrows. Just that run, and obviously Alisson had no chance when he squares it across to Edouard. So yeah, for me it is the defense, not so much the midfield. The midfield, at times lately have been a bit off the pace again. I wasn't on last week. I was at the Brentford game. I thought that first half was dreadful. All across midfield, defense. So it's for me. We've just got to learn to keep the ball. Just try and find feet, and half of these chances don't happen. We don't come under that much pressure. So that for me, that's where I think we need to improve. That's the one area of improvement, I think.
Well, as poor as we were, fortunately, we didn't concede that second goal and ultimately end up scoring a third. I know we all agree that it was a stonewall penalty and that there's no need for VAR to get involved in it. No, I think we all agree it was a really, really shocking decision, and I think it just sums up the trend this season. I think in the past few seasons as well, in terms of the football quality seems to be getting much, much better, but the officiating just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So I'll start with you, Dan. What have your thoughts been on referees this season? Also, the usage of VAR as well.
I don't think I'm allowed to say what my thoughts are on referees. I think that could be us for the foreseeable future. No, it's awful. It is awful. And you know what? Speaking, more seriously, you're dead right. Because the Premier League as a product, hails itself as the best in the world. And it might well be the best in the world. I've got no issues with that statement whatsoever, because it probably is. But if you've got the best football in the world and the best footballers in the world, and you proclaim to have the best, product in the world, you need to have the best officials and the best refs. And they're a million miles away. And they're not just a million miles away because you look at the decisions and you think, yeah, they're bad. And, they end up, correcting themselves time and time again, or they come out later on the week and saying, yeah, that was wrong. And you see ex-refs coming out and so on and so forth, and just getting basic things wrong time and time again, unfortunately. But if you can't compare them to anything, it's difficult to say. But when you look at, different parts of Europe and the world for that matter, and you watch the Euros and you watch the World Cups when they come around, and the standard of refereeing is so much better. Like, how often, when you do watch international football, they seem to go by without a hitch. There's never this massive controversy, really. You could probably pick out one or two, obviously. I'm not going to say there's never been a problem in international football. But it seems every week in the Premier League, once or twice a week, sometimes there's serious decisions that they're getting wrong over and over again. And it just doesn't happen elsewhere. It just doesn't. And I don't know what the answer is. But the answer probably is training. Working with these officials to make sure they get it right. I think ex-footballers could have a bit of an impact, because I think understanding the game is a huge problem. Because if you haven't played football, like some of these people probably haven't, it can be difficult to know exactly the way things look and the way things are. But there's no doubt about it. They get so much stuff wrong. And a lot of the time, it's not even stuff that we end up talking about because it's just a free kick that comes to nothing. You know what I mean? And there's a couple today in the Chelsea Tottenham game as well after ours that you're just bewildered by. And what always gets me and will forever get me is now they've introduced VAR. Obviously, it just means refs can double down on the mistake or make the mistake a second time around. Is if it happened to us against Southampton about 18 months ago and they still haven't let it go. If a free kick gets given and it's not a free kick and they score off that free kick, nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like their goal, Danny Ings scored against us for Southampton last January when Ralph Hasenhüttl cried after the game. Yeah. I am getting to a wider point here. That was never a free kick that was given in the first place. They score off it, and the world just carries on. I mean, that isn't like I don't understand how that can be right. I'm not, asking for every single thing to be checked, but that can't be that difficult. You know what I mean? It really can't. But anyway, like I say, officials are terrible. That was never a penalty in a million years. I'm openly happy to admit that. It's not. I've seen some Liverpool fans trying to defend it on social media. For me, listen, it's a bit of a mess from Gaeta. It's not ideal. But Jota's also made a mess of the situation, hasn't he? His touch is poor. He's not going to get that ball. He's not going to score. And Gaeta's pretty much stopped and he's ran into him. It's not for me.
What about you then, Kieran? Do you think it's an issue with the refs, or do you think it's an issue with VAR, or do you think it's just the rules in general?
I think it's the referees. It's the referees, mate.
Yeah.
They're just plain and simple. I mean, we talk about how to try and improve it. The one thing the Premier League did do this year, at the very start of the year, they brought in a ref. Now, you might not have heard of him unless you are watching. Jared Gillett, Australian. They brought him in at the start of the season. I don't know how many games. He's certainly reffed at least one Premier League game. He's been the VAR on a number of occasions. So I can't really say what his performances have been or not, but his name hasn't come up in sort of, the referees, the Paul Tierney classes, that sort. So I think the answer, I don't know if the Premier League are going to go with it. If we are the greatest league in the world and we've got the most money in the world, go and buy the best referees. Go and get in their ears. Get your best on from the leagues around the world and just say, come to the Premier League. We'll give you X amount of money and come and ref in our league. Because I can't see the English refs are not good enough. And the thing is, you can't just bring the ones up from the Championship because they don't have VAR in the Championship. So it'll take months and months to train them, and yet you haven't got that. So for me, the way around it is to go have a stupid little referee transfer window.
Love that. Love that. I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, but the only way around it is go and get the best referees from around the world. Football's, players being transferred and ruined by money. The only way to get it is the only way to get the best at the minute is to buy the best. So I that's the only thing I can think of to get around it, because it's happening week in, week out. We're sick of talking about it. It's all rubbish. It's not just one or two clubs. It's every club. They're sick of it. They need so for me it's it might be a crazy idea or not, but obviously they did bring Jared Gillett in, so I don't know if they're going to go down that route more. But that just throwing that out there.
No, that's right. But we have seen that buying referees isn't an issue in many other countries. So it starts there. Then I'm sure
just to say, I quite like that idea, and it was something that was in my mind as Kieran was talking. I think that's probably the next thing we'll see, genuinely, because the Premier League has got the most money. It is supposed to be the best, etc., etc. There will come a time whereby the Premier League should start approaching me. There's a little bit of snobbery as well, in my opinion, in terms of, because the British, most of our refs, obviously, like we said, we had brought Jared Gillett in, who I do think was involved in the shocker, Kieran, earlier on this season. Just one.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think he was one bad. Because the same thing came into mind, because we've essentially bought this fella from Australia for a reason, because there was loads of talk about him, because they have a lot of communication over there with earphones in, you can hear what they're saying. And he was praised for the way he reffed. And I think he is quite good, but he did have one nightmare. It won't come back to me who it was and what it was, but yeah, I think that's the next phase, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I think and what it also would do is it would take away any location bias, and what I mean by that is obviously when Anthony Taylor's reffing us, despite being from Altrincham, which is essentially Manchester. And also, he's refereeing us against Manchester United, and so is Paul Tierney. And you expect us to believe that he has absolutely no association to either football club. It's just bizarre. Like, I don't care whether he's not a Man United fan, but you can't tell me that he hasn't got friends or family that are. And that's almost half controversial, but it's just a statement of fact. If he's from Manchester, he's going to have a link somewhere down the chain that is to one of those clubs. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but as soon as he has a bad game, any ref has a bad game in that fixture, it just spirals out of control then, because Liverpool fans, as we know, are going to say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But signing refs from abroad will eliminate that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? See who's got the deepest pockets and who's going to buy the referees. Hopefully it's not any of our rivals or anything, and it's just a league. But moving on, ultimately, we did get the 3 points. Difficult away day at Selhurst Park. So I'll finish with you. Well, I'll start with you, Dan, actually. How important was that 3 points? And I know, obviously, we've talked about performance and it not being up to scratch, but how important was it to get those 3 points and get into this international break, still unbeaten in 2022?
Oh, it's massive. Absolutely massive. For a few reasons. The main one being the fact that we obviously cut the gap to Man City, still got a game in hand, still got to play them. The title race is back on slightly. I say it with much trepidation because I'm not convinced it's fully back on, but we've given ourselves a sniff. There's no doubt about that. But more importantly for me, everyone, including us to a certain extent, was worried about what had happened this month without obviously the AFCON players. Divock Origi goes missing for the most important month of his Liverpool career. Thiago's injured as well during one of our main players. Harvey Elliott's still not back, and we fell off the pace in the title race, and all our key players went missing in the same stroke of a pen. And you think, oh no, this is a nightmare. We come through unbeaten. We reached the Carabao Cup final. We reached the FA Cup fourth round. It's a superb month for Liverpool. It could not have gone any better, really. It really couldn't have. So that confidence and that belief and self-belief the players will have got from winning without Salah, Mane and Keita will be massive. And welcoming them back in the next week or so is so big for the rest of the season. What we go on and achieve, who knows? But we've given ourselves one hell of a chance because of this January.
Kieran, how about you?
Yes, again, I agree. With the players leaving for AFCON, you wouldn't have blamed people for thinking, fearing the worst at all. But now to get to, first domestic cup final since 2016, fantastic. We are still a bit of a way behind City, but that's to be expected. I do think, they've got the best squad in the league, so it's only natural. But I think, more so just City dropping points, it gives you that bit of hope that, teams can, not necessarily get at City, but they can take points off them. Certainly at one of Southampton, a couple of chances to go 2 up. Yeah. I was watching the game, so so what are we? 9 points behind with a game in hand. I mean, statistics will say that City are strong favourites, and rightly so. But you can only hang on in there. There's still 15 games to go. We've still got to play them. That it'll probably come down to that. We will have to win there, but there's still both teams have still got a lot of very tough fixtures to go. Points will be dropped from both sides. That without a shadow of a doubt. But for us, I think we've got along really nicely here. We've got got ourselves a position in the league where we're still hoping and dreaming. We got to the final of a cup, progression in the FA Cup, and obviously we're not too far away from the knockout rounds of the Champions League again. So still going on 4 fronts, having some of our best players not with us, injured and whatever is to be honest, nothing short of sensational, really. It's not to be you shouldn't really underplay it. The amount of people who are getting angry and disappointed. We've lost 2 league games all season. Our next league game's in February. You can't ask for more. You can't really ask for more than that. It's it's just a privilege to watch at the minute, and long may it continue.
Well, we did our job in the league today, but now we'll track back to early on in the week where we did our job in the League Cup as well. So obviously we'll speak out the Arsenal game now. Going into the first leg, Kieran, Obviously, we knew that it was going to be a tough game and that Arsenal were going to put out a good side. We come out of it 0-0, a bit disappointed. But going into the second leg, we knew how important it was and the need to win this game, obviously being a game away from Wembley. So how excited were you for this game? And then obviously how it panned out, what we thoughts of it overall?
No, I'm on going into it. I was really excited, mate. Looking at it, if you'd have offered me basically what was a one-off game away at Arsenal to get to a final, you bite your hand off all day for that.
Yeah.
And I was really confident going to that game, basically for one reason only. I think back to the Champions League game at home to Bayern Munich, round of 16. They came and did the job on us, got a 0-0. And the celebrations from them, told them everything that basically they were through. But that second leg in Bayern Munich, we were sensational. I thought, do you know what? I think lightning's going to strike twice here. I think Arsenal not obviously you can't be complacent playing Liverpool, one of the best teams in the country, but to come away from, Anfield 0-0, they think, not the job's done, but the hard work's done. And I thought, no, we're decent away from home. I know we haven't got some of our best players, but this they think it's going to be a walk in the park, no chance. And we were excellent Thursday night. That was a proper ground out, solid 2-0 win. I couldn't think of anything wrong. Everyone was sensational. Jota scoring 2 goals. He's been an absolute revelation. We speak about it week in, week out. He's what he's done for us since he's joined is absolutely unreal. But that was a proper team performance because I didn't give Arsenal a sniff really at all. I thought we showed our class. So I was very confident going into it. Done the job. We've got final at Wembley. Be a fantastic day out. And let's go on. Let's go and win some silverware.
Well, Kieran mentioned there we didn't really give Arsenal much of a sniff. We weathered their early storm. Dan, what did you make of the 2 goals? And obviously, Diogo Jota as well. How good is he as a player for us?
Unbelievable. There's been a few people that have stepped up over the past few weeks. He's one of them, obviously. In fact, Kieran Lewis, he's been outstanding for 18 months. But in particular, the past few weeks, without Salah and Mane around, I think he took it upon himself to say, okay, I need to go again here. And Fabinho as well, even from a goal scoring perspective, the man's turned into prime fat Ronaldo. It's just a joy. But more seriously, first night, Diogo Jota, that first goal, it's not the cleanest strike you're ever going to see from Diogo Jota, but it absolutely does Aaron Ramsdale, which is always quite nice to see. And he's left Tomiyasu for dead. Nutmegs, can't keep up with him. And then there's Ben White, and Kieran alluded to the Bayern Munich situation there, which is quite funny because it's something I did in midweek with the Joshua Kimmich. And do you remember when Joshua Kimmich laughed at Sadio Mane? And obviously Ben White put that picture up, then he laughing at Minamino. Seems like a dangerous ploy against the Liverpool side, that, and tends to come back and bite you. But Diogo Jota was absolutely phenomenal first night. He took that game by the scruff of the neck. First goal, decent finish, like I say, not the greatest strike you're ever going to see. The second one, the finish is sublime. The touch is perfect. He knew he was onside. You could just tell. As soon as he looked at the flag, he was like, nah, no way. But that pass, we actually didn't speak about Trent's pass from today for what ended up being the penalty / non-penalty. What a ball that is.
Yeah.
But Thursday night, that pass to Jota again from Trent is just, that's not fair almost. That's not you can't have your right back doing that. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, I'm with Kieran a little bit based on Thursday. I was confident. It's difficult, obviously. We've had to play differently without Salah and Mane, but I think we found a way. And it's been really nice to see. And watching us win without them is almost really encouraging, because obviously there will come a day whereby they're not around. But if we can find ways to win without relying on those two, then it bodes really well. And we've done that because Jota, Trent and Fabinho have been just sublime the past few weeks.
Well, Kieran, into a Carabao Cup final. Never thought I'd see it in the Jurgen Klopp era, but we are here now. We know how much he loves this competition. I know he loves this competition.
He just found himself in the final, I think.
Well, I'm sure he's quite disappointed when we came out against Leicester and then lost to him the week after. He's probably thinking, can we swap the results, please? And
Yeah.
we've had that in the league. But so in the final now, obviously Klopp's mentioned already that Kelleher will be starting in the final. So for you, how excited are you for the final? But also, would you play the players that have got you this far, or would you play our full strength team that's available and make sure we come back with the trophy?
Firstly, I'm massively excited. Wembley, massive day out. Chelsea, what more can you ask for? That's going to be, fantastic day out for everyone. On the goalkeeping situation, I'm happy with that because you can't not say Keller has been fantastic for us because he has. He hasn't put a foot wrong. So, I think that that's a wonderful move from Klopp to say it from this area. Obviously, God forbid he's going to be all right and everything, injury wise, but he deserves that place in the final. To back him this far away from it, I think that's a wonderful, a great move from Klopp. Because the week of a cup final, you're not, some players you're not going to not sure if you're going to start or, those things going through the mind. So to be told, that far in advance, I think it's a stroke of genius because he can relax himself and get ready for that big game. And to be honest, it's not. I don't think it's a drop in quality. We speak about how good Alisson is, how good Kelleher been. I mean, the amount of saves he's made this season. That save against Arsenal, that tip onto the bar. World class. Ramsdale did one against Leicester in the season. It's pretty similar to that. It's top draw. So I've no problems with them starting that. For me, cup final at Wembley, you've got to go for it. First team, whatever the strongest team available is, we have to go for it. Because as good as Liverpool have, as good as Klopp's been, let's try and build, a tally of trophies we've won. We've won a good amount of trophies under them, Premier League, Champions League, Super Cup, Club World Cup. But let's get that tally up, for us to speak to future generations and talk, make it even that more impressive what we do. So whatever our strongest lineup is, absolutely go for it. And let's get into it because we definitely owe Chelsea one in the cup final. For me, 2012 FA Cup, 2005 League Cup. We owe them one. I think this is the chance to get it over them.
Well, what about you then, Dan? Would you stick to the people that got you there, or like Kieran, you're going to go full strength?
It's a good question. I think I'd be tempted to stick to the latter rounds sort of side. If I'm honest, I don't think I was a big advocate of Cade Gordon playing in midweek. Don't think I'd be such a big advocate against Chelsea, but I'd also have no issues. Obviously, we're gonna, fingers crossed, we're going to be full strength by then in terms of Elliott, Salah, Mane, etc. But I would probably be looking more towards Oxlade-Chamberlain's, your Minaminos, and your Origis. If I'm going to be brutally honest, just because obviously the Premier League will have ramped up a notch as well by that time. It's the end of February, the final. Champions League football will be fully amongst us. Hopefully, we're in a strong position in terms of the Inter Milan tie or already through it. I'm not quite sure date-wise how that'll fall, to be honest with you. But yeah, listen, it'll be very strong. It'll be sort of bench strength as opposed to academy strength, if that makes sense. Like, I'd be looking to those sort of names, your Minaminos, Oxlade-Chamberlain, like I say. Curtis Jones, no issue with him whatsoever. Similar to Kelleher, similar to Kieran, got no issue with Kelleher whatsoever. I think he's a sufficient level and quality to feature in that final without a real panic. And that's a massive compliment to him, because when you're coming in for Alisson, who, like I say, in certain aspects, I believe to be the best in the world, for Kelleher to come in seamlessly is a serious plus point from him, and just shows you how well he has done. So I've no issue with that call whatsoever, and I'd have no issue with similar calls getting. Tsimikas, for instance, is probably the perfect example. I don't know why I haven't thought of that 5 seconds ago. Him for Robertson would be no issue whatsoever. I think it's a very slight drop. I think Robertson's proved recently that he is still the better left back. But if Tsimikas was to start against Chelsea, no problem. Whereas if Owen Beck was to start against Chelsea, with all due respect, not for me. You know what I mean? That's the sort of team lineup I'm getting at. Even like some Milner's midfield wise. Who knows where Harvey Elliott will be by then, but hopefully he's fit and firing and he can use that as one of his games.
Well, hopefully one of our later podcasts is us celebrating the Carabao Cup win. But now we'll move on to the fact that it's been a really busy transfer window for Liverpool so far. Oh, wait, no, that never happens. Apologies. So, no, we'll talk about the fact that AFCON boys are now back, hopefully after, the international break. And I think the main, concern for all of us was, are we going to have enough depth? And, was the main reason for signings in this transfer window was depth for them going away. But I want to ask you both, do you still think that we need depth, in this transfer window, but also beyond? And for you, is there anyone in particular that you want in or out in the next few transfer windows? I'll start with you, Kieran.
I go back to the start of the season, and I think we could have done with depth in the summer transfer window myself, just the way it was going. And sometimes, centre back last season, it was centre mid. We were, getting a bit light at times this year. So, this is you're never gonna match Man City for squad depth, certainly under us. So I think we'll probably be looking ahead. I don't think we won't do anything this January. I don't think so. We'll be looking ahead to summer, and I think we'll be looking, those sort of shrewd signs, like Jota and Thiago, those sort of relatively expensive signings, but ones that will certainly make definitely make an impact within 6 to 12 months of being signed. So that that sort of thing. But we do have to look at it. Obviously we've got the AFCON lads coming back. I think we have dealt really well when they have gone. So to counter my own argument there, we can replace them, but that first team is never going to be what we've got now is never going to be not the same as Salah or Mane. Keita in there as well. So for me, summer will be the time when most of the dealings will be done. Obviously, we're going to go and speak on about contracts and all that. Certainly Mo Salah's deal, how that's going to affect things. So there's quite a lot a lot of things to weigh up. What do we do? What do we bring in? Where do we strengthen? A lot of questions. So obviously we speak about the AFCON lads. I saw that Senegal and Egypt are playing each other in a World Cup qualifier. Yeah. And the loser's not making it. So we're guaranteed to at least have one of them not there, which we can look at next year. But bigger picture, it'll be a few sort of squad players who do we get rid of? We couldn't get rid of Origi. There were no takers for him. Will there be takers for him now? I don't know. Will Klopp want to sell him at all? We've sat in, we've said it. How important is he? But this is a time when we really needed him, and like as Dan said, he's nowhere. He's injured. He scores a wonderful goal against Wolves. Don't take anything away from him. He scored a wonderful goal. Such a key important goals, but he's nowhere to be seen at the minute. Those sort of injury problems. So I think on the whole, I couldn't really sit here and give names and that sort of thing, but I think it is a big summer for Liverpool for me, in terms of making sure that we're not going to get anywhere near the depth of City or to an extent Chelsea, but we need to give ourselves the best possible chance. If we're not successful in the league this year, that we give it a right good go next year.
Dan, how about you? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, very similar in terms of positional. I think we are still in need of a midfielder. I think, in fairness, it's a difficult one because I think we've been relatively unlucky when it comes to the midfield department. I think most of us in the summer when Gini left, because Gini's biggest attribute was his durability. He was always available. He's a very good footballer as well, but his main thing was the fact he always played, and that was so valuable. And obviously, we've seen the emergence of Harvey Elliott, and I think all of us for about 2 weeks would have gone, actually, we're all right here. And then he breaks his ankle. So it has been relatively unfortunate in that sense. And obviously, Thiago's picked up irregular injuries. Naby Keita. We've been relatively fortunate in a different sense that the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain has remained fit and been good, actually, in a variety of different positions, which has saved us a lot. Like, he's obviously played in the midfield. He's played more advanced recently because, like we say, we touch on Origi. The time we needed him most, unfortunately, he's not been there for us. But credit to the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, he stepped up and he's been superb. But yeah, for me, it would be that attacker. I think we have an issue in that I think we need competition for Sadio Mane, personally. I think that's probably the first port of call because his form has dipped. There's no doubt about it. His numbers aren't bad, but his form has definitely suffered over the last year. What that's down to, I'm not sure. But I think we've seen with Andy Robertson, if you give some players a bit of competition, they really kick on from it. And I think he might be one of them. Salah clearly doesn't need competition. And there's not a lot of point in signing because we're linked with likes of Rafinha at Leeds and Jared Bowen at West Ham, who both play in the same position as Mohamed Salah. And they're very good players. And I'd take them both at Liverpool, certainly Rafinha, actually, in a heartbeat. And I understand both. And I understand Bowen from the English perspective because of quotas and all that sort of stuff. But neither of them really play in many other positions other than that right wing role. And I've heard people say Rafinha can play on the left, but can play on the left doesn't really fill me with a lot of confidence. And neither of them are going to start ahead of Mo Salah. You know what I mean? So for me, it would be, to cut a long story short, it'd be an attacker that can play across the front line. That's what I'd be looking. So literally one that was versatile enough to come in across the entirety. Because I think Jota will eventually be that central one when Firmino stops playing even more than he is now. And the midfielder, just because, despite saying I think we were relatively well stocked in that department, I still believe too many of them are injury prone. We're going to lose James Milner in the summer. That's an absolute nailed on. He is going to leave. Whether he retires or goes elsewhere, I think he'll probably go elsewhere. So there's one midfielder we need instantly. So yeah, I think we will do well. I spoke to Ian Doyle this week from the Echo, the Bull Echo that people will obviously know, and he said it will be a busy, big summer for Liverpool. So what that means, we're not entirely sure yet. But like Kieran said, you know, not only just for our title aspirations, which are obviously the main point from a fan point of view, but this squad needs fresh blood now, doesn't it? Let's be honest. We need to be looking at the next generation because Milner's going to leave. Henderson's another year older. Thiago's no spring chicken and picks up injuries, you know, as much as he picks up glorious passes, it seems. So love all these people to pieces, but ultimately they're not around when we need them most, you know. So for me, I don't think we'll do much in January, unfortunately. Let's put it like that. I can't see it. I think we'd be very fortunate. I think the only chance we have of doing business right now is you've probably seen the links to likes of Fabio Carvalho. Someone that's out of contract in the summer that we can pick up really cheap now. That's the only thing I can see us doing in the next week or so. Because clubs will start to panic and they'll think, we're going to lose him for nothing in a few months. So let's get an amount for him now. Dennis Sakari at Mönchengladbach might be another one. That's the only, because they're sort of long-term targets for us that might just become available cheap. And just to say as well, just to finish this massive rant I've been on, I do think Divock Origi will leave because I believe he's got an extension clause. He's out of contract in a few months. But he has to play a certain amount of games to get an extra year. He's not played many games and he's also been injured for like a month. So I just can't see him getting to that. So there's a good chance he'll leave for free, in my opinion.
Well, you mentioned their issues with the squad, but I think another issue is the fact that contracts, and in particular the fact that quite a few of them are running out at the same time, particularly the front three. We also talked about Mo Salah as well, and obviously his contract has been the main one. Dan, for you, if he does sign this big contract, which we do hope that he does, what issues does that provide for the rest of the club and, you know, players that also want big contracts, but then also the wage structure? And do you think that, you know, that will impact Liverpool in a negative way?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think he does sign the contract. That's just me, my opinion. I think he will sign it. Everything he's saying, all the noises, all Klopp is saying more importantly, probably. Klopp's very relaxed about the whole situation. I think he probably will sign. I don't think it will impact like our structure necessarily. He probably deserves whatever he's going to end up getting. Let's be honest. And if you believe what he says, it isn't crazy, whatever that means. In my opinion, it's all pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't think it will, because the other players in the squad will recognise that he is the most important player we own, because even though the likes of Van Dijk and Alisson are also world class, they don't score the goals that Mo Salah does, and goals are what's important. Strikers have always been paid more than everyone else. That's just the way football works, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I haven't got any issues with that. What will be interesting is the impact it has on Firmino and Mane in terms of their contracts expire at the same time. And the fact we haven't really heard anything about those two makes me think that we're just waiting for the Salah one. And whatever Salah does will impact what we offer to those two. I think if we sign Salah on to an extension for big money, I just don't see us going all out for Mane. I think we'll make them an offer.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be the sort of offer that the club will be quite happy for them to reject. That might sound brutal, and I might be wrong, and I kind of hope I am wrong. But I think one of them probably leaves the club, if I'm honest, in the summer. And that is entirely my opinion again. I can just see us cashing in on one of them, because there's been talk of us cashing in on one of the front three at some point. And I just can't see us tying all three of them, all pretty much 30 years old, down to new 3, 4, 5 year deals. I just don't see it. I just don't see how that's how the club. We were quite surprised when they did it with Henderson.
Yeah,
Mo Salah's an absolute must. So to do it with Salah, Firmino, and Mane, I personally wouldn't, and that sounds outrageous. And I don't think the club will either.
What about you then, Kieran? What are your thoughts on the whole contract situation that we have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Salah is an absolute must. He has to, he's by far and away the best player. Other players are very key, going forward. The front, Mane and Firmino are, wonderful players in their own right, but Salah's different class. I think the players, as Dan says, do realise that. So it is right to offer him that amount of money, but it is the sort of knock-on effect from that. I mean, obviously we don't want them split up. We fell in love with these players for the last few years. They've been the best front three I've seen at all. Yeah. For a good number of years. And you just think to split that up, it'd be absolutely crazy. But at the end of the day, more and more so now, football's a business, and that's the sad truth. They will be looking at these sort of things of if Salah gets whatever he wants, 300, 400 grand a week, whatever it is, what do you give Firmino and Mane? How much you give them a week, what contract you give them, if you give them one at all, or as Dan says, do you say at this point that you're open to offers for them, that you try and look ahead at to future generations, that you sell one of them and you get one or two players, maybe that come through the ranks, sort of like a like a Jota signing, maybe not as expensive depending on how much you get for them, but that that type of thing, looking not look at the here and now, but looking ahead to the future. So that Dan's right. This is going to be a big summer. I think there's a few questions to be answered, certainly. Main point, I think Salah has to sign. I think he does sign. There's no question about that. The questions will be, what will come after that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen. But we'll round off with one last thing. Unbeaten in 2022, heading into the international break. Sounds good. Hopefully it stays that way. But we've seen Liverpool play very well this season. But at the end of the day, at the end of the season, for you, what would be a realistic and acceptable sort of accolade for our success? How many trophies would you be acceptable or happy winning, or how would you like to see the squad set up for the next season? Kieran, I'll start with you.
Well, I was just smiling there because me and Dan were the original hype about the quadruple, which is by far the means, still on. There's no reason. Well, still very much can win the quadruple. But since you say that, just statistically, I think the league is just going to be beyond us. We'll push it all the way. I think the way we do. I do. The hope's definitely there now. Certainly after this weekend, but looking at it, certainly I'll be disappointed if we lose the cup, the League Cup final, because I think we've got that far. Let's go and win a trophy. So I think for me, we win that, and I still look at the Champions League. I mean, I'm not sure what the current odds are, but I think even though we're there or thereabouts every year, we're always about third or fourth favourite, and it does surprise me. So I see us going a long way there. So yeah, for me, I think we finish in the top 2 in the league, but there's no real reason why we can't win 2-3 trophies this season, certainly, which I think would be fantastic, for the football club. So I don't think we'll quite get to the quadruple. I mean, if we do, we're unbelievable. We spoke about the fact we got there before City. I'll laugh my head off, but because it'll be unreal. But certainly the League Cup, and hopefully let's try and get number 7.
Dan, what about you?
Yeah, very similar. I think. Listen, the league's a bit of almost a free hit in the most bizarre circumstance. Like, we're not expected to win the league anymore. We probably weren't from the outset, to be honest with you, but particularly now. So almost what will be. I think our form and how good we are will take us to the top 2 in the league, regardless of what happens between now and the end. League Cup, we're in the final. That's almost, it's not a trophy in the bag. We've still got to win the final, of course we have, but that is an absolute must, in my opinion, now. We're there, we're a game away. Let's just go and win it. I'm actually more confident about the Champions League than the FA Cup, for lots of reasons. The sort of teams that we're going to put out probably being the main one. We'll need a bit of luck in the draw in the FA Cup if that's going to continue. We've had it so far, in fairness. Cardiff's not the worst draw in the world. But I'd really enjoy like a mad cup treble, to be honest with you. And I don't see any reason why we can't do that, because the league being, like I say, being that free hit might just free us up a little bit to really go at the other stuff. Previous years under Klopp, we've been focused on the league and thinking we can go and do that. And we've cast the cups aside for that reason. Not the Champions League, it's a different story altogether, but this year, with it being the opposite way around, us being relatively off the pace, there's half a chance we could just do something crazy in the cup. So, yeah, let's just do that.
Well, thank you guys for your time this evening, and thank you everyone for watching. It's been a very enjoyable one, as always. But yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon for the next edition of the Shankly Gates Podcast.